In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up and perform a barbell row. The barbell row is one of the best staple back exercises that anybody can do, but it is one that involves quite a bit of form and technique pointers to do it correctly, to do it safely, and to get the most out of this exercise. So we're going to get down here onto the platform. I'm going to show you how to set up for this exercise, and then we're going to walk through the technique points of actually performing each barbell row repetition. Okay, so one of the first things I want to talk about is setting up the actual barbell. You'll see here that I have a barbell with two 25-pound plates on each end, well, one 25-pound plate on each end, so two of them total. And I have them sitting on top of these two bumper plates. Now, depending on your situation in the gym or at home, your equipment may be different or may vary, or you may have some limitations. The reason I have this set up this way is because 25-pound plates are typically smaller than some of the larger plates, like a 45-pound standard plate. And for me in particular, I like to set these 25-pound plates up on top of the bumper plates because that allows me to get the bar in a starting position that's comfortable so that I can row the weight up and then let it go back down to the ground, which in this case is on top of the bumper plates. If I had to lower the bar all the way down to the ground with 25-pound plates on it, it would throw my back into a little bit more of a stretch than is comfortable for me, and so I just don't do that. So I would encourage you to, before you even get started with doing this exercise, look at the equipment that you have and figure out what's going to be the most comfortable for you to perform these repetitions safely and comfortably. Now, part of the reason this is so important is because to do this exercise properly, your back should be as close to parallel with the floor as possible. And what I mean by that is you should be getting down to as close to, having your torso flat in line with the floor. Understand what I mean? You don't want to be up here rowing like this. I see tons of people do that in the gym, and sure, that's a barbell row. But it is defeating a lot of the purpose of this exercise, which is to engage the majority of the musculature in your back. If you are picking up the barbell, coming up, and then being at like almost a 45-degree angle with your torso, you're not going to be involving a ton of the musculature in your back, and you're going to be limiting the range of motion. Whereas if you're getting even lower, your arms and your back are stretching even lower, and then you have to row even further to engage and pull the barbell all the way into your body. That's going to involve more musculature of your overall back. So this is a big ego movement exercise for a lot of people. A lot of people like to load up the weight to prove to the people in the gym, who don't care, by the way, that they can row a ton of weight, but they do it with a very, very small range of motion and really don't get a lot out of the exercise. So I want you to strip the ego away for this one and just focus on doing the repetitions with perfect technique, regardless of how much weight is on the bar. If that means you can't even put weight on the bar and you can only do a barbell, then you can only do a barbell, and that's where you're going to start, and you will slowly build from there. Okay, so you have your barbell set up with the weight that you want to row, and we understand the importance of technique for this exercise, right? You want your torso as close to parallel with the floor as you can possibly be. Now we get into the setup. So the first thing I want you to do is start with your feet underneath the bar. It's good to have the bar kind of almost cut your feet in half when you're looking at it from standing up, okay? And you want your feet to be about shoulder width apart. That's going to give you the most sturdy base from which to row. And of course, once you start rowing the weight, your feet, your lower body is not going to move. It's going to stay stable. So if you're about shoulder width apart, that's going to give you the most stable base to row the weight. From there, I've found that it is best to have your hand placement in a place that has your arms comfortably rowing at a 90-degree angle. You don't really want your hand to be further out or further in, because once again, that's going to limit your ability to lift the weight and row safely, effectively, and row as much as you can, as much weight as you can. So you want your arms to kind of be at that 90-degree angle, not outside, not inside, okay? So with the shoulder width stance, find that place where you're going to get that good grip and that 90-degree angle. This may mean you have to do some reps in front of a camera to see where your hands are, to really figure out where to put your hands on the bar. Mine is where my thumb is right at the beginning of the knurling on both sides. And that gets me at a good angle. And then I'm really in place to row this bar. The next thing I want to do, and the last thing of the setup before I start to row it, is pull the slack out of the bar. You hear that click? That means you're applying tension to the bar before you actually row the weight. And that means when you row the weight, you're not going to be jerking the weight off the ground. So you're in place with your foot position, your hand position, pull the slack out of the bar, and then we can start rowing. Okay, now to actually do the repetitions, the first cue that I want you to think about is retracting your shoulder blades. So starting the row by actually retracting your shoulder blades, and then you're gonna finish by thinking about the cue of pulling your elbows back. So pulling the barbell almost with the tips of your elbows as far back as you can. And what you wanna do is make sure that for every rep, the barbell is touching your torso. I don't really care where it touches. It could be high, it could be low, it could be in the middle, wherever. Just make sure that it's touching your torso with every rep, because that's a way that we can mark that these are successful reps. If you get to a point where you're unable to touch your torso with the bar, that means you're at the point of failing and we need to stop the set, okay? So if you have a rep like that, that's your last rep for every set. And then we mark that down, and then in future workouts, we try to add a rep to that. Get an extra effective rep before you can't touch your torso anymore. So let's run through how these look one more time, okay? I'm gonna do the entire setup and show you the cues of rowing the barbell. I'm in front of the barbell is cutting my feet in half. I have my feet at shoulder width distance. I'm gonna get my hands in place so that it's going to comfortably and safely row the weight. I pulled the slack out of the bar, and now I'm gonna think about first retracting my shoulder blades and then pulling with my elbows, and it looks like this. In addition to touching your torso with every rep, the weight should come back down to the floor or back down to your elevated bumper plates or whatever you have underneath your weight, okay? So that is another marker of an effective rep. All the way to the floor, all the way to your torso, so on and so forth. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask. Happy training.